go. I'm with Yulia, who's in Jersey from the Ukraine, and we're going. She looks very fit and healthy today, but 3 years or so ago you had a very nasty accident in the Ukraine, knocked down by a motor car. What happened next? You were knocked down, then what?
Then I woke up just after being hit by 2 cars, and I heard the people screaming all around. They called for how it's called, ambulance.
An ambulance, yeah.
Yes, and we are often joking in Ukraine and Russia that ambulance comes on the 40th day of your death. So it never arrives on time, and occasionally there was another accident nearby, and we caught the other ambulance that was passing by, and
so that was your good luck.
I had lots of luck. Lots of luck during that accident. So they called my friends who were just nearby the place of the accident, and they arrived as soon as possible. And actually they were managed. It was my classmates, and these guys were managing all what was happening afterwards.
Now, just to make sure that people understand, this was somewhere in the mountains. It was
Carpathian Mountains,
right.
The border between Ukraine and Poland.
Right. So, in fairness to the Ukrainian system, they took you to a hospital, but it was only a local clinic.
Exactly. It was a local clinic with absolutely no equipment, no facilities. It was not even forecasted how would the patient arrive to the X-ray room, because it was on the 2nd floor, and it were my classmates who were carrying me.
They carried you. Because that also made clear that your injuries were very, very serious.
It were, yeah, unfortunately.
All over your body, from your head to your toe, basically.
Exactly. It were not only fractures, but my bladder and my lungs were also collapsed. So they brought me to that local clinics. And
the ambulance that brought you, was that free? Who provided the ambulance? Whose was it?
It was my classmate Rudolf who was paying.
He had to pay for the ambulance?
He had to pay for it.
Okay. So then they had you in the clinic, and did they operate on you there? They had to do remedial treatment? Did you need blood or anything like that?
They made the pre-examinations, and they understood that my injuries are too heavy to keep me in that hospital. And for my luck, they already called for the doctors from the regional clinic, from the regional hospital, and they arrived as soon as possible to make the first treatments for my lungs. And for my lungs, it was the most.
How many days was it before they took you to the regional hospital?
It was made just in an hour. It was made immediately, because remember I told you that my bladder was collapsed, and I required the urgent surgery. So I think like in 6 hours after being hit, I arrived to the regional hospital, because it took some time for the road, for the examination, for the itinerary, for the examinations. And about midnight, I arrived to the regional clinics.
And your friends came with you?
Yes. One of my classmates stayed with me, and he called to my mom, who were in another city 260 kilometers from there, and as soon as we arrived to the regional hospital, she was already there.
Now, just tell us about the hospital, because they treated you over a period. How long was the treatment for total?
I stayed there for 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
The moment of the accident, it was the 2nd of January, and I left this clinics for another city and another clinic the 26th of January.
As far as you were aware, the clinic, the Ukrainian hospital, was a typical Ukrainian hospital. It was the standard you thought hospitals were.
It was pretty good for Ukraine. I mean, not the best surrounding was provided, but at least they had equipment, and they had good specialists. What is the reason that this region, this Ukrainian region, is just on the border with Poland, and occasionally the mayor of this region is really taking care of his region and of his people, and he orders lots of equipment of unfortunately already used and old equipment from Poland. But even used and old equipment from Poland is the best equipment for Ukraine.
Are the staff, the doctors, these all Ukrainian staff?
Yes, but very often they have the interns that come from Poland in order to learn.
Now, did the hospital have all the necessary drugs and stuff to treat you with?
Not at all. I was wondering how would they treat me if nobody arrived, if there was no my mom, if there was no my friend, and actually they answered that there is some kind of reserve for the first 24 hours, and if nobody arrives, to pay for the continuation of the treatment.
What happens? You're out on the street, are you? What happens to...
Kind of.
So you had to pay, basically you had to pay as you go for the treatment.
Exactly. So my mom and actually my friend was taking care of it. He was paying for everything, starting from blood, plasma, all the liquids, all the equipment for transfusion, all... you can imagine, or you can't imagine, but everything what was around me, it was paid by my friends and my family.
By our terms, Jersey terms, was it expensive? Was it a lot of money?
According to Ukrainian living level, it was expensive. Because if you know or if you don't know, the average salary in Ukraine is about 2,000 hryvnias, the currency in Ukraine, and we were paying 2,000 hryvnias per day in reanimation. How do you say in reanimation?
Right.
So one day in intensive care, it costs the monthly salary.
You were awake whilst all this was happening. You were most of the time.
Yes, I was.
You weren't kept unconscious for treatment.
I kept my conscious, and I was asking. I was answering questions. I was even joking. I had something prepared for my mom when I saw her in the smog of...
Now, was she able to stay at the hospital, your mum?
There were no facilities forecasted for this case, so they were sleeping in a waiting hall on the seats. And near the intensive care hall, there were no even chairs.
Really?
And so, yeah, they were...
I mean, obviously you were concerned about your own case, but did you observe what happened to other patients there? Were they treated well?
They were unconscious.
Mostly.
And actually, it was good for them, because they were not observing what was going on there. It was.
If the doctors
terrible.
and people are paid so little, did you have to pay them as well? Did you have to ever offer them money?
Yes, unfortunately, the medicine in Ukraine is supposed to be like free of charge, but the doctors are not well paid, and if the doctors the medical staff actually is not interested to treat you well, and it is the national politics that if you want your relative, somebody of your relatives to be well treated, you go either with some package. It depends on the level of the patient, on the social level. So people bring what they can bring
as payment.
As a payment. If a patient is a village, if comes from a village, his relatives bring eggs, bread, homemade bread, vegetables, alcohol they do by themselves.
Does this apply? This is a hospital. Your life was very much at risk. But would this apply if you went to the dentist or to have your eyes tested? Is this the same system right through, or is it only just hospitals?
Actually, it is everywhere. But when we treat our teeth, we usually go to private clinics. Just that case, we were in a public hospital. I'm sure in a private hospital, private clinic in Ukraine, you just receive a bill with all the treatments you had, and you pay on a cash desk, not directly to somebody's pocket. But we were in a public hospital, so my family actually needed to have right contacts and make some calls to some important people in Ukraine in order them to call the director of this hospital, and in order to have
the outcome, as it turned out, was very fortunate, because they did save your life and they did repair the damage after a fashion, and you were sent then to another hospital, I believe.
Yes. So after 3 weeks in the regional hospital, I moved to my mom's city, the city of Lvov. There it was supposed that they have a very good traumatology. In that regional hospital, they did my bladder and they did my lungs. And it was well done. Thanks to them, it was well done.
We won't dwell too much on the injuries because they're so extensive. There are so many repairs, and I feel sure you're still recovering, because it was very severe illness.
Yes. So we moved to Lvov, and actually we were very disappointed by the services we got there, because neither it was good diagnosed, nor it was good well operated. So
some of the work was not well done, in fact.
It was not. And actually they sent me home in 4 months, saying that I'm okay, I just need the rehab and I will be okay. But I was feeling that something is wrong. It was my first experience being completely fractured, but I had just...
Were you able to walk by then?
Just with crutches and just with help of somebody. I lost almost all my weight. I was just bones and skeleton. I was 45 kilos, and it was my mom who took.
So how long did you have to stay home with your mum?
So we started the rehab at home because the rehab system doesn't exist in Ukraine. So there is no another hospital that takes care of your rehab.
So you leave hospital and go home.
Exactly, and you do what you want. So it was up to us to find a good physiotherapist who would take care of me. And actually, he was just following the advices that doctors made, but he didn't act by his own. He didn't advise us to make the MRI and to see what is wrong with my knees. It was by ourselves to decide to think that I'm not okay, and we did the MRI by myself, and we saw that it is a mess there. It is no longer a knee. It is just a sack with bones.
So you were still in quite a bad state, really.
Exactly. And
well, just going to interrupt you there, because up till then, have you any idea how much it cost you or your parents or your family to pay?
Yes, we calculated how much it cost in Ukraine with all the bribery we made and with all what we paid to the admission office in hospital. So in general it costs us like 31,000 euros.
Euros, right.
Yeah.
There's one other person we haven't referred to again, is the car driver who knocked you down. What happened to him?
What happened to him? So it was analyzed that it was not my fault, the accident. It was considered the fault of the very young guy who was driving a car who hit me. At that moment he was like 22 years old, and he was really immature and mature. They were in shock. Of course, they didn't want. His family was dealing with my family, with my mom, and of course they didn't realize first that how many injuries I had, and they didn't realize how much it will cost them.
Did they prosecute him? The police prosecuted him for what he did?
First of all, we wanted not to start a trial. We didn't want to put him into prison. It is not neither my interest nor my mom's interest. We just wanted to have back all the expenses we have during this terrible accident, and they were acting not really very.
Did he have money? Could he have afforded to pay?
As far as I understood, they were running some business, and the part of that expenses, it was his car secured car insurance,
right,
that must take some part of the expenses on it. But
nothing happened.
Nothing. 1 year and a half has passed, and actually no payments.
Okay. We're going to stop there, and we're going to go on to chapter 2, which takes you back to Paris.